Again, thanks everyone for joining us for today's What's New in 2022 webinar. This is our overview of our most recent 5.3.2 release. For those of you who are in APAC, so on the OC instance of Ninja, this has already been released, as well as for our EU partners. If anyone's up at 1 in the morning in EMEA and joining us, this has also been released for you. If you're in the US, this will be released next week on Wednesday. So this is a little preview for you. With that, I think we can go ahead and jump in. A little housekeeping to get us started. The first is we do like to keep these interactive, so please put your questions in chat and Q&A. Whoever's not presenting at the time can hop into chat and answer questions, engage with you, keep the conversation going. But if you want a question answered more in depth, toss it in Q&A and we can try to answer it at the end. We did a session this morning. We had about 15 minutes at the end to answer more in-depth questions, so we hope we'll have that time again as well. This webinar is being recorded, so we will send it out to you after the fact. It usually takes about 5 days. You can rewatch it yourself or share it with anyone on your team. And then finally, we are giving away a gift card tonight. At the end, before Q&A, we will bring Christine on and have her announce a random winner. So please stay on for that. If you want to leave after that, you can, but if not, we'll answer your questions after that as well. So with that, I think we can introduce ourselves and get started. My name is Pete Breton. I'm the Director of Customer and Product Marketing here at Ninja. And I'm here to talk about some of our endpoint management and platform level updates, and really excited to share those updates with you.
Awesome. Thanks, Pete. Hi, everyone. My name is AJ. I'm the VP of Product at Ninja. I head a few product lines at Ninja, including the main line, and very excited to be here.
And after all this time, I still forgot where the mute button is. Hey, everybody, I'm Michael. I'm the Senior Vice President of Strategy. I run the support organization, the training organizations, and I run a portion of our product management team, specifically around the ticketing product, which we'll be talking about in just a few. Glad everybody's here.
Awesome. Thanks so much, AJ and Michael. Before we jump into the core content, I want to give you an overview of how we'll be running through this. We've broken up this webinar into kind of 3 sections. Our major updates, which will actually show you live in the platform. Some minor updates that, depending on time, will either show you some of them or we'll just talk through what they mean. And then some things that are coming out and being released into beta that we just want you to be aware of, so that you can look for them as they come out into open beta and then into general availability. So I'm going to start with a quick overview of the key features, and then we'll transition right into the demo. So I'll be talking about our endpoint management, backup, and platform updates. AJ will be talking about patch management and documentation, and Michael will be talking about ticketing. I think the most important thing to recognize in this release is that there's something for pretty much everything in our platform, right? So we've got a pretty significant update to scripting and our capabilities there. Our backup, this release covers 2 things that have been pain points for existing users and have blocked some of our partners from using Ninja Backup. One being the ability to back up Mac endpoints, and the other, the ability to actually restore from an image backup. So we've solved for that in this release as well. And then we've made some initial UI and workflow changes in what we're calling our administration panel. It used to be called our configuration panel. You'll see that throughout the webinar. AJ that is then going to jump into patch management. I'm really excited about this because I think it's probably our biggest update to patch management that we've done, at least in my time at Ninja. Documentation is really exciting as well. We're getting to the point where we're close to parity with our major competitors in the documentation space. And then ticketing, we've added some really strong new features that are required for broader adoption that Michael's going to jump into as well. So with that, I think we can jump into the actual live demo, and I'll see how many times I can say jump in today, and we'll count them out for you. All right.
That's 3.
All right. Let's see if this kicks me out because I didn't just log in. For those of you who have not used Ninja before, this is the dashboard that you'll see when you first log in. It's kind of a heads-up display. Some of our partners have this up on big screens in their office. The whole purpose here is to give you that 5,000-foot view of your IT estate, so you know everything that's going on in your environment, as well as what you need to pay attention to. So, for example, the red would be, I think this is a failed patch. Yep. Something that you want to address right away. Yellow, something a little bit less, but you still probably want your attention on. And then green, if we had one here, would be healthy, right? You don't need to do anything here. We're in good shape. So just to orient you there, I'm going to dive in first to our new scripting capabilities. I think the most important thing to point out here with these new scripting capabilities is it's actually a combination of several new features for scripting. The first one is an update that allows you to queue a script for a device that's offline. From a workflow perspective, prior to this release, if I was, for example, looking to push out a script to all of my Windows devices, or let's say my desktops and laptops, if I have an offline device here, like these two, I couldn't actually run a script if I selected offline devices. It wouldn't let me. What we've done is allowed you to now run these scripts across all of your devices, online or offline. And what it's going to do is it's going to run immediately on that online devices, the Carla laptop. Well, it's going to queue up a script to run on Daniel's PC and desktop 0UQ, whatever that may be. So I'm going to go ahead and actually do that. And I'm going to use a pretty innocuous one here called empty recycle bin. Obviously, this could be something much more complex. It could be multiple scripts, but in this case, I don't want to break anything, so I'm running empty recycle bin. And now that I've run that, you can see here I've requested that start. If I go to Carla here, we're actually going to see that is either running or has already run. It's already run. But if I go to the other devices, because they're offline, you won't see that they've run. You'll actually see them here under pending scripts. Where is it? I think that's this one right here. We'll see that it's going to run against these devices here. And if I wanted to, for example, because I know those devices aren't coming back online, or if I decide I no longer want to empty that recycle bin, I can go ahead here and cancel those pending scripts. So that's one set of features. The ability to queue scripts for offline devices is really important. A really good example is, let's say a device goes offline because it's stolen, and I want to write a script and run it that would wipe that device. Before, I'd have to wait till it comes online, catch it coming online, and then push that script out, which the likelihood of that happening is pretty small. Instead, what I can do is I can queue that up, and the first time the Ninja agent checks in, it'll run that script and perform that function. That's just one basic example, but it shows you the power of this capability. In addition, we've added the additional scripting options, script scheduling options in this release. So if we go into scheduled tasks, this, for those who haven't used Ninja before, this is a way to run scripts across a large number of devices or a few devices on a schedule. We've added a few new schedule options here. So we've always had daily, weekly, monthly, but we've added the ability to run once immediately, to add it as a scheduled task, but not have it run every hour, for example, or every certain number of hours. And then I think the two most interesting ones to me are on system startup and on user login. These two are brand new across the platform. And so every time a computer starts up or anytime someone logs in, I can now run a script against it. So what I would do is say, I'm going to run a script on every user login against a particular group of machines, let's say against a dynamic group that I've created, for example. Let's say it's, Windows 2022 servers. And then every time someone logs in, it's going to run a script. So that's really cool. The new on-user login and on-system startup are available in both scheduled tasks and in the policy management system. So you'll see those there as well, which is really exciting. All right. Oh, I didn't actually show you where you actually put the script in. For those who haven't used Ninja before, I'd add that script here and say, I'm going to create a local user on every login, which is a terrible idea, but that's what I'm doing. So that's it on the new types of script schedules. We also have in this release a brand new concept in Ninja, and it's our template library for scripts. We've always given you a bunch of out-of-box scripts in Ninja, but many of them, they're black boxes. You can't actually get into the guts of them and see what's going on. So, for example, this install application script, if I go ahead and run that, there's actually a GUI that will pop up, and I upload a file and I run it and I install that application. But I can't go in and edit it. I have no control over this script or functionality. The new template library actually allows us to upload scripts after they've been, reviewed and QA'd by our team, and make them available to you much more rapidly than through this our old script capability. So what this allows you to do is, if I want to import a new script, let's say get failed password attempts, I'm going to go ahead and import that, and I can actually see the full script here, as well as the documentation on how to use it, which is critical, right? So I'm going to go ahead and import this. I'm going to put this into, I don't know, hardening, for example. It does say that these are provided as is, so if you do make changes, we don't support them anymore. You're going to have to support them yourselves. Just be aware of that. If you use it as is, our support team can help you. If you make changes, they can't. But I'm going to go ahead and import that. Oops. Reauthenticate there. And now when I go into scripts here, oops, I forgot what that one was called. Get failed password attempts. Get failed password attempts. I now have it here. I can go and edit, make any changes that I want to. If I want to make adjustments to meet my particular needs, I can very, very easily, which is a huge step forward. And I think most importantly, we can respond more quickly to your request to add additional functionality by pushing it through this template library. For example, one that came up recently was the ability to roll out a particular application we integrate with, and we put that on the list to deploy in an upcoming release, and you'll see it here in the near future. So there's a lot more agility that this gives us than we've had in the past. So that's it for scripts, unless either Michael or AJ, you have anything to add on scripts?
No, that covers it. Thanks, Peter.
Awesome. All right, round two, backup. Let's talk about that. I'm going to start with Mac OS because I'm here. So if you have enabled backup in Ninja, you'll see it here. You do have to have file and folder backup enabled. If you do, you will now have access to Mac OS file and folder backup, which is in this release. So if I go to my policies here, for those who haven't used Ninja, policies are the kind of the central decision-making and automation piece of Ninja. And I open my Mac policy. I will now see a backup tab here. So I can go in here and I can create a file and folder backup plan to roll out to any or all of my Mac OS devices. So I hop in, Mac backup. I'm going to back up, let's say, daily. I also have those other options, weekly, monthly, every hour, whatever it may be. I have all the power options and revision options I do for Windows. What's really critical here, I think, is we give you probably more flexibility with your backups, in my opinion, than the vast majority of backup solutions out there today. So I can decide how many revisions I want, how long to keep that data, whether or not and how long to keep revisions. And it really allows me to very granularly balance like data retention needs and storage costs in the cloud. This does work for cloud or hybrid or local. I don't have local set up for this org, but I can back up locally or to the cloud or both. And I do have the ability to decide what I back up. So if I want to back up the user profile, I can. If I want to create a particular folder, I actually don't know the Mac file system well enough. I'm going to just put C, even though I know that's stupid. I can decide what I back up here as well. And then we have filters, right? So if there are particular file types you want to back up or exclude, you can do that. And we have some built in. So for example, I think we probably have PKG in here. So we're automatically excluding PKG files, but I could include those if I wanted to. So I can set that up and automatically roll out backup to all or some of my Mac OS devices directly from the Mac policy, just like we do for Windows. For Windows, we obviously have image and file and folder. But for Mac today, we've just released Mac file and folder. Speaking of image backup, the next feature I want to cover briefly is the ability to mount an image in the cloud and then restore a file. The first iteration of this is the ability to actually restore, to download a file. We do have restore in the works, on the roadmap. But the initial version is to mount an image and then download the file. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into a server here. We can see we're running an image every week. And we can see the revisions that we're storing and their size and all of that information. So I'm going to jump into, this one here from 7.4 and jump into a volume. And you can see it's mounting that image in the cloud. It's going to take a minute because we're actually loading it up so we can explore the file system. And once we do, I'll actually be able to go in, find an individual file, and download it. So I've got this file here. I'm going to go ahead and download that. The ultimate goal is to have a restore so we can push it back to the system, like we do for file backup or file restore. But in this initial version, it's just download. So I download it and then push it back to the client or customer or end user or whatever maybe. It looks like that might take a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. My welcome's taking up all my bandwidth here. And that is image mounting and restore. So last but not least, we do have our platform updates. I've kind of showed them to you already. If you're a current Ninja partner, what you've seen up until now is administration was actually called configuration. We have renamed that to administration, and we have redesigned the section. The right-hand side of this major column here, the redesign there is pretty minimal in many places, but we do have a new nav on the left, and we've tried to make things a lot more organized and make a lot more sense. So, for example, we have your new role-based access controls here. We have your single sign-on setup. You have your security controls here as well. Under our library, we have those scripts and knowledge base for documentation and SNMP library for custom SNMP. So we're just trying to make things a lot easier to find and a lot more logical, as well as updating this place used to be called integrations, but we have all of our products which aren't integrations. Those are proprietary Ninja solutions. So we had to come up with a new name. We call it apps. You have the ability to add Ninja apps or any integrations that we may have. And then when you jump in, you'll actually see the configuration section that you're used to. So with that, I think I can pass it over to AJ, and we can get started with patching.
Awesome. Thanks, Peter. Thanks for that. That was awesome. So everyone, patching is not treated as a feature at Ninja. Patching is more like a product line, if you will. And what we're doing here is across various fronts. There is Windows patching, to which we've made improvements in this release, which we'll talk about. There's also Linux and Mac patching. So we are releasing Linux as an open beta. I apologize, closed beta. And then Mac third-party patching also as a closed beta, with a disclaimer that it might not work perfectly for the first few customers as we onboard them. And then we'll work with them to make sure all the bugs are fixed and it's in a robust shape before it's rolled out to larger audience. So let's talk about the Windows-specific patching features now. First of all, let's actually go drill down to the policy. So the first one here to talk about would be customizable reboot prompt. Case in point, let's say if a patch requires a reboot. Earlier, we were sending a generic message to the end customers on their device, which was sometimes too generic and that caused panic. So here we have the ability to customize that based upon the title that you pick here and also the message that should pop up on the endpoint. Further, we've also added this lever wherein the end user can only postpone the reboot X number of times based upon what you configure here. And then there's another option to just notify the user with a custom reboot dialog and then reboot right after. Moving on, second improvement is being able to wake up the device before the patch scan and or upgrade schedule kicks in. So we are leveraging the task scheduler built into Windows natively. When the device is online, we will place a task in the task scheduler that's automatically wakes it up 5 minutes before the scan schedule or the update schedule, depending upon what you've configured here. So that's again, that helps the device to stay in compliance. Let's say the end user leaves for the day, the device goes into hibernation mode. This will wake up the device and perform the patching and keep the system up to date. Next one is pre and post script execution. So this will let you run a script on the device before the update kicks in and after the update completes. A good example for this one would be your Exchange or SQL servers, wherein you can run a script to unmount the database, perform the patches, remount the database, and then, if required, reboot the device. So if you click Add Script, this will bring up our script library from where you can pick your custom created script based upon your use case. Last mention here for Windows patching is actually under the patch dashboard. So here, for each of these patch workflows, we've added a few more fields for visibility. Let's say, for example, for all the installed patches, there's a few new columns. There's patch age, which tells you when was the patch released by Microsoft. What is the download size? Again, in this case, it's blank, but for the most part, it will come back with the size of that patch. And lastly, uninstalled supported or not. And this uninstall supported column is, again, step one towards adding patch rollbacks in Ninja. So in a subsequent release, if the uninstall supported says yes, there'll be a checkbox here, and you can pick one or multiple KBs to be rolled back. Also, for the failed patches, we've added the reason for the failure along with the error code. So this will again give you more visibility as to why a certain patch failed on certain devices. All right. Next feature I'm going to talk about is documentation. So as Peter mentioned, zooming out, like NinjaOne is a portfolio of products, and one of that product is IT documentation. And that the goal is to, by the end of this year, have the feature parity with all the major players in the market that are freestanding documentation tools. So let's go through this use case. I will go into an organization, assuming this is an MSP, go into the documentation tab. And for this demo purpose, I'm going to go into this Active Directory information here. As you can see here, there's all these related items that I've added that correspond to this particular page. So I can add things like attachments, any devices, one or more, organizations, locations, text, credentials, and also secure fields, which is more like usernames and passwords that are relevant to this particular page. And if I click on an attachment, let's say, for example, this shows me, again, it's a printer image, but this could be your customer contract. This could be your network topology at that site and whatnot. Another example of related items would be at the device level. So let's actually go to a device. And if you notice, there's also the related items section showing up right here. And you can do the same thing the way you could do at the documentation page. So you could add one or multiple entities of these types to the device itself. So it's a perfect way to understand the entity relationships within your customer org. Also, now let's look at the revision tracking or the revision history in Ninja. So if I go again back to my org, go to the documentation tab, and go back to the same example. If you click these three dots, there's a section called document history. So this shows you all the different revisions for this particular page. I can review a certain page or certain version of that document, and I can restore that or just cancel and go back to the live version. Again, a good example of this would be, let's say you store passwords for some important websites for this customer, and mistakenly one of your technicians came in here and erased some of those. So you can go back and restore a happy copy, and yes, so there's that. Now I think with this, I would love to move back to Michael, who can present the next part, which is ticketing.
There we go. I remembered the mute button this time. Progress. Hey guys, I wanted to chat with you just a little bit about some incremental changes and improvements that we're making to the ticketing product overall. Just quick backstory. We introduced the ticketing product early, really at the beginning of this year, as being a viable option for people to be able to choose. Over the course of the last, 7 months now, we've made some pretty significant incremental improvements in the way that it functions. We've added a ton of features based off of customer feedback and customer requests. Um, and this release is no different. So I'm going to talk about 4 of the top level feature improvements that we've changed and added with this most recent release. There's also a really large number of what I would consider less significant overall improvements to the ticketing product. But it's worth noting too that with our current roadmap, I mean, we have the next 3 years worth of feature enhancements planned out, which we're really, really excited about. But again, you know, everything that we're doing is largely based off of feedback that we're getting from our customer base and specific requests for even sometimes interesting or isolated use cases that we can really see the value in. So we're trying to be extremely responsive to our partners' needs. A couple things I'm going to go through. First of all, are we essentially have domain management now. And I'll talk through that in just a moment. Tag management, I'm going to cover asset owner version 1, as well as being able to create tickets from the device itself. So I'm going to first take us into our administration section. As Peter mentioned, we've changed integrations to apps because apps is more really more in alignment with everything that we plan to be able to do and plan to be able to integrate with. So there's this new card for ticketing. And then let's start with domain management on as the first point. So here's the use case. And I'm going to give you kind of a quick backstory too. Up until now, if a ticket came in, was emailed in from an unknown sender, meaning that they were not already either a contact or a user within Ninja, to prevent spam, to prevent just being inundated with things that shouldn't have even become tickets, we have this concept of a pending emails board. So tickets from unknown senders went automatically into this pending emails board, and then from there you could review it. If you wanted to approve it, then you could do so, and it would become a ticket. That was obviously for people that weren't able to get all of their contacts or all their users in. There was a little bit of a problem in terms of the fact that there could be a lot of really legitimate emails in there. So one of the things we did is allow domain management. What this does is it allows me either to allow or block, if the situation warrants, any email to automatically get promoted to a ticket and a contact created based off of a specific domain. So here's how this works. I'm going to choose create. I'm going to select whether I want this to be a domain or an email. So an example of a domain would just be NinjaOne. And then the best part about this is I can assign it to an organization. So in this case, and we're on our European instance since they already have this. So don't be surprised if you can't necessarily understand the words. I can't either. But essentially, any ticket that comes in with an @ninjaone.com alias or domain rather will automatically be assigned to this organization. And again, that contact that sent the ticket in originally will also be created and assigned to the organization. So it does quite a few things all at once. So one of the things that we're doing consistently from this point on is we're trying to reduce friction into even being able to get tickets into your systems for you. So that's domain. I could also, if I wanted to whitelist or allow list a very specific email address, then I can do that as well. So if I intentionally wanted to exclude everything else from a specific domain, but just approve a specific email, then I can simply make this change. The same rule, by the way, applies to a block list. If I know that there are specific domains that I don't ever want to hit my system, then you can do the exact same task. You can either add an email or an entire domain as a block list. So really, again, the biggest benefit I think is going to be the rapid addition of being able to add tickets in from unknown senders. But the side benefit is you can also now block domains or email addresses if you're finding abuse. One of the other frequently requested features is this notion of tag management. So for those of you that have not used our ticketing product, tags are essentially smart filters that you can apply to tickets. They're heavily used in automations, so you can add tags and then engage entire workflows based off of the presence of or absence of tags. So it's a really, really powerful and dynamic tool. Here's the problem, is that up until now, if you had a technician that mistyped, that maybe they had a dyslexic moment and they incorrectly typed something, there was no way to edit it. And then on top of that, if you had multiple technicians that were creating tags, they may have created the same tag with slightly different verbiage. So the problem existed of how do I get all of those referencing the exact same support ticket? So we've done a couple of things. Number one is we now have a full list of all of your tags. We also have the total tickets that are associated with that tag. And if I click on this, it brings up a filtered list so that I can actually see all those tags in action and what tickets are associated with them. So on the front end, that's a really easy way now to be able to conduct an immediate search without having to apply any filters at all. So this now becomes a really, really powerful tool for that. Secondly, is I can now just simply rename. So for example, if I wanted to rename this particular one from agent issue to bad agent issue, I can simply do that, and it'll automatically update not only any workflows that I have engaged as far as automations, it'll automatically update the tickets as well. So there's no additional steps that you need to take. Now, here's an even bigger one. Let's see. I have webinar 1 and webinar 2. I'm actually going to create a new one called Awesome Webinar. As a tag, and I'm going to use a little underscore here to separate the words. So what I'm going to do now is I just want to be able to merge these together. So I can essentially choose merge. I can find the webinar that I want to merge them into. And essentially what this does is it takes all of those and it merges them all into one. If there are tickets associated with those with those previous tags that I've now merged, again, they'll be updated for you dynamically. So it's really a time-saving feature. It's really a pretty powerful way for you to be able to make sure that your tag workflow is kept efficient. So that's that. Now I want to take you actually into our dashboard and actually look at a couple of things here. So I'm just going to pick on an organization. Let's just actually find a couple of devices. So I'm just going to pick on this one as a quick example. We have this new business of being able to assign it's kind of a version 1 of asset ownership. So we have this ability. I can even multi-select from this list and choose update user, and I can assign a user. So in my case, I'm just going to assign Michael Shelton as being the user. That is now associated. So I can tell if I go into the device and I go into settings, I now have, well, at least I should have had, maybe I did that incorrectly. Maybe I chose the wrong device. Let me just do it from here. Maybe I didn't save it. Okay, I'll check the other one in a second. But here's what we now have: Michael Shelton, myself, associated with this device. So it does a couple of things. Number one, it allows me to search for devices that are associated with me if I do a broad search. From a ticketing perspective, it also allows me to very quickly and easily create a ticket and have it pre-populated. So again, a customer calls me up, I'm looking at their machine in Ninja, I decide that I want to create a ticket. Previously, it was a little bit of an additional step. I had to actually go over into the ticketing product and I would have to add a ticket. Now I can just do it dynamically from that device, and it pre-populates with the correct organization and the location if that's been selected. And it also pre-populates both the requester and the device. So this whole section now is completely filled in, and I can just get down to business of actually typing in the things that I need to type in. So that covers asset owner and also being able to create tickets from the device itself. So yeah, I'm really excited about where we're going with the ticketing product. We have a lot of really cool things coming up in the next couple of months that are going to make things even easier and even more fun for it to use. I will say as well, since I know that we still have a little bit of time, I will say that it's been really cool in the community and also through our email alias, which I'll put the actual email you can use if you have questions about ticketing. I'll put it in the general chat. But we've been really responsive, and really, I think this product has been great largely because of our interactions with our customer base. I've obviously been using ticketing platforms for years and years, but there's nothing like hearing some of the unique use cases that each of you has. So it's been a really fun passion project to be able to work with all of our customers and prospects, people that are looking at joining Ninja to find out what they really want and need. Pete, I think that's it for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michael. I think we can switch over to my screen, Christine. Thank you so much. So as I mentioned, we've gone over some what we consider the biggest updates, but I do want to highlight a couple minor updates as well. These are sort of quality of life improvements that if you're a customer and they've been a big pain point and we solved them, they may feel like major updates for you. If you're not a customer and you'll never feel those pain points, so that's our hope here. We again do have updates across endpoint management and ticketing and documentation, as well as the ability to actually map agreements to locations with our ConnectWise Manage integration for those of you who are using ConnectWise Manage for your PSA. There are two I want to call out because we do still have a couple minutes before we need to get to Q&A. And these are the first two on endpoint management. It's device deduplication and advanced installer options. These are both asks that have come in for a long time, so I think they are worth highlighting. If I jump over to the platform really quick and I jump into administration, right here under settings, you'll see two new options, advanced installer options and deduplication. I'll start with deduplication. The pain point here prior to 5.3.2 was if I re-image it, a device completely just dies and I re-image it, but the device ID is the same and it goes in the same org, you'll actually see two devices with the same device ID. Even though they're the same hardware, we'll treat them separately because Ninja sees them as two separate devices. So what we've done is if a device comes in and it has the same device ID and it's put in the same organization, you can dedupe them. They'll merge those two together so that all the records from the original device will move over to the new device. And you won't have to, you won't show extra numbers of devices, and you won't have these offline devices that don't do anything. It'll clean your interface up quite a bit. So what you do is you just come in here and turn this on, and that deduplication would happen going forward. The other option also here is advanced installer options. We go to on here. I'll show you what that looks like. If I go to plus and add a device here, you'll actually see this new device role capability here. And what this is going to do is it's going to hard code the device role to the installer. So a good example here is Exchange server. Let's say I have 5 Exchange servers and I want to roll out the Ninja agent to each one of them. I would hard code that Exchange server here, and then I would generate the installer, right? And so when I install this agent on all of those 5 servers, they're going to be automatically assigned to this device role. That's important for a couple reasons. If I go into an organization here and I go to policies, you'll see that device roles map to policies. And since policies are kind of the brain of Ninja, they're your centralized decision-making and automation tool, it's really important that a device when it comes in is assigned to the right policy. So prior to 5.3.2, every Windows server that came in would be automatically assigned to Windows Server, wherever that is. Windows Server. And that means it would get the master Windows Server policy. And then you'd manually move it over to the Exchange policy. We've cut that out. You can now automatically, by installing the agent with a hard-coded role, assign the device to the Exchange server role and therefore to the Exchange server policy. And so, all of your applications are deployed correctly in the first run, your patching policy is set, your backup is set, all of that without having to go in and fiddle and adjust policies. So that's the major kind of innovation there. You can have as many hard-coded installers as you want, or you can set it to auto and it will detect the role and install. So that's that. The rest of these worth going through. We've added the ability, for example, under conditions to use. I'm totally spacing the word. A star, an asterisk. AJ, help me out.
A wildcard?
A wild card. Thank you. It's late at night. The wild card variable at the beginning or end of a process, so that you can trigger the condition. And some as well as making some of the conditions closed loop. On ticketing, Michael's given a bunch of updates as well, but we've added the ability to automatically create tickets from some conditions, activities, etc., that weren't already capable of doing that. Custom fields as board columns, so if you create your own custom fields, those can go in your board view, and the ability to export a ticket with the entire feed in a really easy to read CSV. This one I love, the URL field type for documentation. It's a clickable URL, so a use case here is if you're documenting all your SaaS applications and there's a login link, now you don't just put it in and copy and paste it. You can actually click it and go out to that login. So lots of small but mighty quality of life improvements here as well to talk about. And then I'll hand it back over to AJ.
Awesome. Thanks,
It's not
Peter.
late at night, by the way, Peter.
So patching, as I mentioned, is a full-blown product, right? So with that in mind, we have these two closed betas, which are already starting this week. So we are adding a few customers. The idea is to add around 20 to 25 customers each for Mac third-party patching and Linux patching, and test it out thoroughly and roll that out to the broader audience. So that's one. Next one, we have a Bitdefender Gravity Zone integration also in the works. It's actually, again, feature complete, and that's also going out as a closed beta. So today we offer WebRoot and Bitdefender SDK integration, which is limiting because, again, all it gives you is the anti-malware. But Bitdefender Gravity Zone integration will give you pretty much access to all the different modules that are available in the Gravity Zone console. So EDR, disk encryption, there's their patching, there's the ATS, Hyper-V, detect and whatnot, or hyper-detect as they call it. So it's, again, keeping this super simple Ninja interface in mind. So it'll help you deploy and monitor those devices after the fact. Next, I want to talk about custom SNMP. So this feature is going out as an open beta now this week. So for all of you, Ninja is a unified IT operations platform. And what that means is it spans devices from your desktops, laptops, server, your networking devices, your cloud-based devices or cloud monitors, as you call them, and others. And this custom SNMP feature, for those of who are not clear what that is, this will let you monitor any device on the planet as long as that supports custom SNMP. So things like being able to monitor your your printers running out of ink or running out of paper, your APC PDU, or your Dell ID rack or your HP ILO, or Synology or QNAP NAS drives. All of them can be monitored using that feature. And if you want to play with that yourself, just speak to your account rep and they will be happy to turn that on for you. And last but not the least, again, as a part of adding more feature parity to documentation, there's two more features being added in a closed beta. Those are knowledge base and checklists. So knowledge base is analogous to your SharePoint or your internal wiki that you might be using to create articles that you and your fellow technicians can use. And then checklist is, again, more like a poor man's project management tool, wherein, let's say you onboard a brand new customer, you want your technician to follow a certain checklist every time they do the site visit. So it will help you in cases like that. Back to you, Peter.
And that is the end of our presentation. I do want to bring Christine on to announce the winner of our gift card.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Pete. Just everyone, as a reminder, we do have a little bit of time left, so you can go ahead and pop your questions in the Q&A section or in the chat, whatever's easiest. But thanks for everyone for being here. And I'm here to announce the fun stuff. So if we can have a little drum roll, please. I'm going to announce the gift card winner. Thanks so much. Congratulations, Frank Wright. So if everyone can kind of pop in the chat and say congrats to Frank. Be on the lookout for an email from me, Frank, and congrats again.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Christine. She has the best job. She gets to make people happy. So we only have a couple jump into them and start answering them, but add any others that you have. We've got about 15 minutes. The first question is just yes. I don't have an answer to that, but it seems excited. So thank you, Nathan, for that question. But then we can jump into Robin's, which is next. Can you rename devices from the NinjaOne portal? And if so, do those tickets follow the device? I'll ask the next part of that question after an answer. I think that might be a Michael question.
I think I was having audio issues. Can you repeat it, Pete?
Yeah, so if I rename a device in Ninja, will that flow into ticketing and follow into the ticketing workflows?
It does. Yeah, it does.
Awesome. And there's a follow-up question that will the change sync to AD if I change a device name?
I don't have an answer for that one.
So let me help with this one. I think, so just to be clear, when you rename a device in Ninja, that renaming is done for one purpose, to give it a friendly name. And that does not translate to the device name actually being changed. It just means you're giving it a friendly display name that you can relate to. If you wanted to actually do an actual device name change, you could probably write a script with a static or a runtime parameter as that device name, and that should propagate seamlessly. Then to further answer that question, so we track a device based upon a device ID. So the moment it assumes a new name, still it will check in with the same device ID, and that name will be reflected in Ninja, but also whatever entity is referencing that name should still stay there. So I believe, yeah, there should not be a problem reflecting the new name in ticketing or other places.
Awesome. Yeah, I was going to say a script should be able to rename the device locally on the device as well. So thank you, AJ, and thank you, Michael. We have another follow-up. We have another question here from Nathan Kaminsky. Any plans to let the Android app better match the web portal? So for those of you who don't know, we do have an iOS and Android app that has many, although not all of the features of Ninja. But there is not parity. So I don't know, Michael or AJ, if you're working on this.
I don't have a good answer for you, but yeah, Michael, if you have a better answer, please go ahead.
I don't know if I have a better answer, but I have an answer, which is that we actually just launched version 3.0 on iOS and Android in the last 2 days. And along with it is the introduction of ticketing into the mobile app. So we're incredibly excited about that. It is not the full featured app, but the basic CRUD functionality is definitely there. The ability for your technicians to be able to see tickets, respond to tickets, be able to remote into devices directly from the app. So it is a very full functioned mobile app, which we're extremely excited about.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just trying to think of anything else that I wanted to say to that. I think that that's pretty much it. Yeah, it's been a pretty exciting addition that I'm pretty jazzed about.
Totally. I would say if you guys feel there's any shortcomings on the Android app, if you compare the apps, and if you want to pass us any feedback, I believe the alias for that is mobilefeedback@ninjarmm.com. I'll confirm that and paste that in the chat for everybody once I do take a look. And we'll be more than happy to make sure the feature parity exists.
Yeah, one thing I would say is, at least early on, the vision for the mobile app wasn't to have everything in there. It's more of quick actions that you can do on the fly. And so you can deploy scripts, you can reset alerts, you can reboot devices, you can even take remote control from your mobile device. But some features and functionalities likely would never make it in unless we had an outpouring of requests from our partner base, simply because we didn't think the workflow made sense. But we do listen to our customers. So if you do have things you want to add, as AJ said, I would definitely share that. All right. Question here from Domingos. What's your integration with geolocation? I don't know the direction of this question, but I don't know if we have a response to that.
So I believe our CTO or our VP of engineering now, he is actually looking at tools to help with geolocation. What we do allow today is IP-based whitelisting and blacklisting, which means you can log into the Ninja app from certain IPs if you decide to do so. But we are in the design phase of this feature, wherein people can or cannot log in from certain geolocations. So more to come on that with the specifics after I get the answers myself.
Remaining question. I don't see any other questions in Q&A, but in chat, I do have a question here from Boris. Yeah, it looks like he's trialing Ninja. Any tips on how to speed up Active Directory discovery when performing an ad hoc discovery job? I have a fairly complex AD structure, but it simply times out. So I can show what that looks like in case Michael or AJ have any thoughts here. It sounds like a support request, but I will show what that looks like while they're thinking. So if I do have Active Directory in my environment, I can go to Discovery Jobs and go to Add. I don't know that I have a domain controller here. Let me see if I can find a domain controller really quick to show you what that looks like.
Yeah, Boris, we have a sales engineering team that should be able to walk you through this too. It sounds like you've been able to do it. It just sounds like it's timing out. Without getting into the complexity of your AD structure, it may be best to work with one of the SEs to see if we can take a look at your specific use case.
Let's see. It looks like all of our devices have been discovered, but we have a very small. Oh, here we go. We have a fairly small number of devices in this environment, so it is fairly quick. It sounds like you have a lot of devices, but this is how fast it was with loading the screen with Ninja. But I can go ahead and hit next and start importing them here. But I would submit a support request and or reach out to your account manager for like one-on-one support on that. Actually, I do see one final question, and then we'll wrap it up. This is from Jason, and I think this is for you, AJ. I love the ability to attach docs in documentation, but to view it, it seems like downloading a copy is the only option. Are you planning on having a file preview in the future?
Absolutely. I believe that's the way it works today. When I was demoing before, let me confirm again. So let's present. Let's do screen 2 and look at this example again. So here is an attachment, as you can see. I'm going to click on that, and it does show me the preview right here. And then I can download after the fact. Further, in fact, just while we're on the subject, so as a part of knowledge base, we are also going to add Microsoft integration or Microsoft Office integration. So you will be able to view all your Office files inline, as well as you will be able to edit those files, just like, let's say, Zoom, you were using Office 365 web-based editor or OneDrive cloud-based editor. It's going to work exactly like that.
Awesome. I think that's a good note to wrap up on. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Michael, AJ, thank you so much for presenting with me. Please feel free to reach out to us, to your account executive, to your account manager, if you have other questions or want to learn more about any of the features we talked about today.
Yeah, thanks so much, everybody. Really great to see you guys. Thanks so much for chiming in.
Thanks, everyone.